This is the Canna Moms Show, a podcast chronicling the inspiring stories of real women in the emerging cannabis industry. Your host, Joyce Gerber, mom, lawyer, political activist, has been speaking with women from coast to coast and around the world who are leaders in the revolution of cannabis and caregiving, continuing on her mission to lift up the stories of the women creating the cannabis industry by sharing their canna stories with you. So go make yourself a cup of tea or roll yourself a joint, sit back, and learn something new about this magical plant on The Canna Moms Show with Joyce Gerber.
From the Tip O'Neill Studios in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's The Canna Moms Show. Now here's your host, Joyce Gerber.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again today as we continue on our mission of crushing that stigma around cannabis and caregivers, one canna story at a time. So just to confuse people, this show is being recorded before Thanksgiving, but is going to be out after MJ BizCon. So we talk about random things that don't make sense.
Okay. Hope everyone's enjoying their leftovers.
So confusing. So I am heading out to Vegas next week, and I could come back the winner of an MJ, possibly, maybe.
Oh yes, you already got one on the mantle, right? Or no, not. No, oh.
I have a woman in cannabis,
right?
And I have a Nican.
Okay.
Nice.
Wow. There's still room on that mantle.
We need a third, and yeah, that's so funny. I went to my hairdresser yesterday so I can figure out how to put my hair up all by myself. So there's been a lot of prep for this, and the clothing. There's so many different outfits I need to bring. There's a lot of parties. I'm a little overwhelmed, and today's guest is going, so maybe we'll talk about it, even though this is coming out afterwards, so we can talk about what we're afraid of.
Vegas would be better for your hair because it's low humidity, right?
Yeah, it's just the whole. I'm wearing a fancy dress with sparkly shoes and the whole thing. So I need to put my hair up. Otherwise, I will end up putting up in a ponytail. And that would just be not great because pictures are going to be taken, Dave. There's going to be pictures.
Yes. Canna images everything.
That's all about it. I'm going to a hip hop party. It's going to be
Really?
So crazy. Oh, yeah.
Well, if you think of it, take out your phone and do some live reporting, and then we can play the clips on the pod.
Well, I will be reporting. I am going on a press pass, so I will be reporting and putting things out, which is why this show will be coming out afterwards, because next week will be all MJ BizCon, me flying in, reels and party shoes, and yeah, it's gonna be great.
Will all the parties have edibles and drinkables and things?
I don't know. I only went once with Amy years ago. Oh, she's telling us. Yeah. I went with Amy, and she smoked so much during the day that she fell asleep at night, and we didn't do anything.
Well, that'll happen in Vegas, I guess.
So yeah, slow and steady. All right. So yeah, I'll be posting from Vegas, so you'll know what I'm doing and what I'm wearing. And I don't have a culture corner today, but it is the holiday season, and I like books. So I wanted to recommend this site. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called NPR Books We Love Gift Guide.
No.
It's literally like a database. So it's a database from people who like reading books, and they put it together over at NPR, and you can select categories of like say if my canna fiction existed. There was this topic. It could be people who like cannabis and fiction and chick flick, and my novel, She's Taking a Break, would come up. So you can put in things that you like, and it'll come up with a book that they think the person you are buying it for would like. So I think that's kind of interesting.
And needed, because I'm always looking for a new book. I just got done listening to the audiobook of the oral history of creating the movie Airplane. It's not exactly high culture, but it was entertaining.
What would that be under? People who like airplanes and comedy?
Ironically, you don't have to like airplanes at all to enjoy the comedy farce that is Airplane. But anyways, that totally makes sense. And sometimes it's overwhelming picking a new book with.
It's so funny. All right. So that's the cannabis book gift guide. I'm looking what else. And they have stuff from the years past. So if you're looking for a past year, I don't know. I thought it was a nice way to find books. I always buy books for people. And the way I do it is wander around the bookstore and see if the cover's nice. I don't know.
Joyce, what did they always tell you? Don't judge a book by its cover.
But if it's going to sit there for a long time before it's being read, it should look good. I do read my books. I think that's it. Oh, so I didn't make a quilt for this year's cannabis podcast giveaway thing. I usually do a quilt, and it's usually hanging behind me, But see behind me, I made a
Yeah.
butterfly quilt. I was gonna hang it. Can I hold it up? You have to.
Yeah,
You have to
sure,
talk
hold
about
it
what
up.
it looks like. All right.
Those listeners watching the video will experience this.
Appreciate
And well, I'll narrate the action here. Joyce is removing the quilt from the back. It was located at the back of her seat. Now she is holding it aloft, and we have a lovely. It's a white background, but very colorful. Almost all the colors of the rainbow. There are shapes. There are arrows going down. I'm not sure if there's symbolism to that.
Butterfly.
And it's taller than Joyce because she's trying to hold it up, and now she is holding up, and now we can't see her. This is riveting podcast.
Anyway,
So tell us about it now that we've seen it.
you know, normally every year I do I do a quilt. Like I did the Amazing Women of Cannabis quilt, and I did the Mom Bong for Mom quilt. Remember?
Mhm.
So this year I made a quilt, but it's just for me. But I thought it was so pretty. But we are still talking about crafting because we're talking about the hemp guitar too, because my son is making that, and that is going to be some sort of marketing giveaway plot I haven't figured out yet. So, yeah, if you're following me and my crafting, I put this up, but I've also been putting Josh's hemp guitar. So
Yeah, you can play in your cover band, play a full set of classic rock songs, and go home and smoke your guitar.
exactly,
No.
it's gonna be it's everything we have here. All right, so I guess we can just move along. So thank you, Dave, for indulging me. I'll see you after MJ BizCon, and hopefully I'll have another trophy sitting behind me.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Even though our listeners have already enjoyed this.
Celebrated.
Yes. Joyce, we lost your audio there. That's not just me, Karen, is it? Still nothing. I think it's back. Nope, I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
Is that working?
Yeah. Well, we can hear you. I'm not sure. I'm hearing you through the mic.
Oh,
Oh, yes, we are.
you
Pretty
hear
sure.
me through the mic?
Yes.
All right. So we'll cut that all out. All right.
Yep.
I got too many wires back here. I didn't even know what I had over here. I need my IT guys to come fix it. All right. So, Lordy Lord.
We got right up to right before. So this is a break. Pineapple. That's a new thing I started. When there's a edit point, I say pineapple so I can find it in the transcript. I know it's weird, but so don't ever talk about pineapples. But you got everything. We got everything up to when you were about to introduce Karen. So
And I won't say pineapple. All right. So
no,
ready?
you don't have to.
Today we have one of the founders of Cannaside Company. It's a unique cannabis marketing firm. This is a woman-owned and operated boutique cannabis marketing company, and it was founded in 2018 by a couple of moms who were hustling to do all the things that moms have to do, and also wanted to invest their creative energies in this emerging cannabis industry. Their business model is client-centric, and they can build you a website quickly and train you to host and maintain it all by yourself. Founders, Reagan Hatch lives in Texas, a non-legal state, and her business partner and college friend, Caron Cooper, is in Washington State, and they are ready to help you. Here today to talk about the marketing work, their advocacy, and the unique experience as Canna Moms. Please welcome to the Canna Mom Show, Caron Cooper, and hopefully Reagan will be listening. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right. So just introduce yourself. Where are you? And I was going to have you talk about your roles, but you can just talk about, I guess, what you're doing and what Reagan's doing and how you met.
Sure. Sure. We both attended SMU in Dallas, Texas for college, and that is where we met and formed our
Friendship. Your
We
Canna friend.
yeah. We always say we bonded over a beer and a bong.
Nice.
Yeah. College was fun. Uh, and then we went our separate ways, obviously, and travel took us to different places. Reagan ended up in South Central Texas, and I moved around quite a bit for different jobs, and found myself in the Pacific Northwest in mid 2017. When we reconnected, I was attending a cannabis marketing trade show here in Seattle. And I kind of looked around and thought, I feel like these people could use some help with marketing, with their booths or with their presentations, etc. And so coming from the agency world, digital marketing agency world, I had connected with Reagan just to catch up and said, hey, do you want to start a company? Do you want to start, a brand that serves this market? I had done the solopreneur thing for years at different points during my career. And I knew that I didn't want to do it alone again, that I needed a partner. I'm the creative, and I can't both be creative and build the company, sell the products. And I needed someone who likes sales, likes networking, likes talking to people, all that stuff. And Reagan is the perfect person for that. And so she thought about it for 24 hours and jumped in.
All right. So you came from what years were you in college?
We graduated in 2001.
Okay, so way before
9/11.
Yeah, so way before legalization. You just were Canna friends and all that. All right. So I got into this industry 2018, so that was still pretty early. I call these dog years. So I understand why marketing is so specialized for cannabis being in the industry. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in terms of, for people just don't know, what do you feel like is specialized? What were people missing, and what were you bringing to the table that you really felt like we didn't have yet back in those days, or maybe still don't have?
Yeah, we formed the company in May 2018. I just thought that brands were so short-staffed, if you will. One or two people trying to do everything to build a company, whether it was a cultivator or not so much dispensaries, but cultivators and producers, smaller companies that were creating really wonderful products with really wonderful messaging, but they didn't have a way to get that message out other than talking to people. And while that is great, and we certainly built our business on word of mouth, it's not really enough to grow a successful brand in a legalized state. So I thought that these brands were missing compelling websites. They were missing compelling websites that were going to communicate the message, and be attractive, be modern, be something that people will take a chance on. So that was what I felt like we needed to bring to the industry, because as you know, advertising in cannabis is quite difficult or limited. And so they need what I call a digital headquarters for people to find them. And cannabis is, because it's not federally legal yet, there's all sorts of issues with just even having a Facebook page, having an Instagram page. And you should not, in my opinion, invest all of your time and effort on a platform that may or may not support you tomorrow, that may shadow ban you, that may just, delete your entire page. And so you need to have a very strong digital headquarters, which is your website that you own, that no one can take from you, that no one's going to shut you down, that will be the place where all of your marketing efforts lead back to, whether it's handing out business cards or, talking to people at trade shows, or if you are able to do there are obviously some methods of advertising, not in the way of Google, but some efforts for digital or availability for digital marketing, advertising, digital advertising through display ads on markets or on channels, apps, things that are cannabis friendly. But where are you going to send them? Where are they going to go?
Back to your website. That's interesting. So I will say I'm 58, so I'm not a tech native in any way, shape, or form. But back in the day, when my friends were forming companies back in the 90s, 80s, whatever, they had a website. And so for me, that makes complete sense that you'd have a website that is central. But is that not sort of the mindset of most humans now? Because there is so much other social media that this idea of a hub isn't maybe not necessary.
Well, I think that COVID made it necessary again. I think that, COVID was a big, we've had different movements towards digital at different periods the last couple decades, newspapers having to go online, magazines having to go online, and COVID was another one of those events that really woke everyone up. Like, I've got to be online. If I'm going to survive this pandemic, people have got to be able to get my product. I've got to be able to make sales online. So I think that helped as well.
That's all right. So I am learning about marketing. This has been like a whole world for me. So that makes sense sort of to me. All right. So you talked a little bit about your roles. You said you were the creative and Reagan is more of the sales, marketing, business person. And is that your whole team? Do you have other people who are working with you?
We have other teams. We have our amazing and talented Becca, who is our designer and web developer, senior web developer. She is the magic behind the products, behind the websites that we build. We also have a number of contractors that serve or that do different tasks or different parts of our business. We have a lot of copywriters, some admins, some project managers, people who help us with social media, things like that. But I would say that they are all women and they are all incredibly talented, and not that we discriminate, but we did build this company and this brand to empower women in this industry, both having come from very heavy male dominated industries. Myself, the automotive industry, and Reagan came from like water treatment and that sort of industry. And so they're very male dominated, and while cannabis is as well, we wanted to make an impact and to empower women to have a bigger presence.
Because this is literally my mission, is to make sure that women are having their stories are elevated, and we create this industry and the caregiver image that she is. And you guys are all moms, and I do talk to men once in a while, and I'm like, oh my God, there are men here too.
It's wonderful to have such a community of women in an industry, but something that I had not ever experienced in automotive or back in journalism. I think we were a little bit more. I
will say what I think the goal is, that we are creating a new industry and we can create it a different way. It's not already formed. Again, I'm an older woman, so I'm not trying to break into something that already exists. I'm trying to be part of a new culture that creates this industry in a different way. So I love talking to all of you because I find it kind of fascinating and amazing, honestly. So I'm enjoying all the stories I'm hearing. I hope other people are too. So let's just talk about what you do before we get into your family and story. What is it that you offer women, or what are you offering cannabis businesses?
Our primary product and service is website design. We have a number of different products at different price points. We understand, we came into market with a $500 website back in 2018. Like I said, looking around at the trade show, I just felt like people don't have major marketing budgets, right? The industry was definitely, even in Seattle, where it was an established industry, it was still newer, and people were, cashing out their 401ks to jump into the industry. And so we were like, people don't have a major budget, but it's so essential to have a modern website that will convey your message. So we came to market with a $500 website, and we still do have a $500 template for people who don't have the budget, but we now offer more complex and design heavy and functionality heavy websites that will allow people to have their website work for them.
And
automate a lot of tasks, that sort of stuff.
and who are you working with? Who are some of the people, maybe women's businesses or businesses that are kind of unique, or who you really felt helped?
Well, we are
Yeah.
really excited. We just launched the Blunt Brunch website, and we're excited to be a sponsor of that event
So
this year.
tell me about the Blunt Brunch. We were talking about MJ BizCon before we got on the air. We can talk about later in Adelia. So I haven't been to it yet, and I'm missing it this year. But tell everyone what the Blunt Brunch is and how you're helping them.
Well, the Blunt Brunch is a women's cannabis organization that is having blunt conversations about how, we can grow the industry, about how women can succeed in the industry. They would certainly give a better pitch than I would about their organization, but we really adore the group, and we're happy to be a part of it, happy to be a sponsor this year. They had a website on Wix, I believe. So one of the issues in cannabis is having your website on a platform that may or may not have friendly cannabis terms, and or have good functionality to look professional. And so we are always recommending people to get off of platforms like Squarespace, Wix, etc. While they're lovely platforms and certainly DIY friendly and affordable, we just don't think it's worth investing time and money and effort into a website that could get shut down tomorrow. So that was a big part of their project, was getting them off of Wix, getting them onto WordPress, which is what we primarily build in. It's open source. There are no rules, if you will. There are no limitations as to what you can do with a website, with the functionality you can build on a WordPress website. And so getting them launched prior to their event so that they can showcase their organization better, if you will, with more information, with more photos, so that people can get a real feel for the type of event that it is. Feature the amazing women that make up the organization, and allow them to market their different events and link to the source where they can buy tickets, that sort of stuff. So
I'll put that in the show because it is a great event. I watch them; they're all over the country, and I'm not going to make the one in Vegas, but sometimes there's other parties. So let's kind of like circle back just to like your family, your experience. You have children. How old are your children or child?
I do. I have 2 boys. They are, well, one's turning 7 next week, and the other just turned 3.
Okay, and you're a Canna mom, obviously. So
I am a Canna mom.
how has this kind of like worked into your life? Is it something you felt like you had to give up when you became a mom? Were you always open about it? How did this actually work with your family and friends?
I'm very liberal as far as my use of cannabis, or at least my talking about my use of cannabis. It has, to me, been a medicine to help me deal with stress and anxiety and some of those things that kind of grow. I mean, as you become a mom, I certainly used it prior to pregnancy. Obviously took a break for a while there while I had babies, but I never really experienced anxiety until I became a mom. I've got to keep this
it's hard.
alive.
Yeah, that keep them alive is a lot of pressure, people.
Yes.
It is a lot of pressure.
And as parents, I think most of us, if not all of us, want our children to do better and have better. And so the pressure that I think we as moms put on ourselves is sometimes can be insurmountable. It's certainly a big part of who I am and a big part of my daily life and navigating challenges and struggles and just everyday life, just the things that come up every day. So I mean, my kids are too young for it to be a conversation yet about it, but I have always felt, at least, that I would be quite open about it and that I would present it. Obviously, cannabis can be fun, right?
Yeah.
It certainly was a lot of fun in college. Nowadays, it's a little bit more medicine medicine
Right.
to me and for my mental health. I also work from home, which I think adds another layer of, we had COVID where we were all at home. And I'm still at home.
Yeah.
So I love.
I think it's better than alcohol. I think that, my era, we did not talk about cannabis. No one talked about it. If you used it, you hid in the bathroom. You didn't tell anybody ever. And now there's a whole new generation of moms who, they aren't wine moms, they're Canna moms, and they're talking about it in a very normalized way, which means their kids think it's just like something that mom and dad do. It's not like some big curiosity or something, and they're smart about it. You're the ones who are breaking the stigma and crushing it because you're normalizing it around your kids. And there are children's books now, which I think it's just a plant. I mean,
Yeah,
that's, I guess
haven't
I
seen
didn't,
it,
I
but
didn't, I didn't, I didn't know it was a plant. Like, I really didn't know like what it was. And then there's a Miss Kindness. Do you know Miss Kindness Ramirez? So she has a book called What's Growing in Grandma's Garden. I think that's what it's called.
Oh, yes, I think I've heard of that. I
And
haven't seen it.
I have a couple over there, but there's like a whole genre of just, it's a plant that you grow and kids, it's just a normalized thing and integrated into their life. Like, it's no big deal. So I think that's funny. So was there ever a stigma, like when your family found out you're going to be doing cannabis marketing? Was there an issue or concern or anything?
Mm, my parents are pretty liberal. And
Okay.
so, no, I mean, my dad will obviously ask some questions here and there that show his age. But I think that my parents have always been very accepting of my brother and I and whatever we want to do and pursue. We're very lucky in that way to have had, support and encouragement in whatever we do. And yeah, I don't think
No drama. That's good.
no drama. I mean, I remember being a kid, a teen, sneaking
Yeah.
a joint here and there and trying to hide it from mom and dad. But I'm very open about my use of it. I would say I haven't smoked, if you will, in front of my children. I feel like that's going to take time and be a different conversation. But my husband will take an edible for his back pain, for example. And there's no reason not to talk about that,
And you're I mean, it's kind of different for Reagan. So you're in a legal state, and
Yes.
for her, what is her? I mean, let's talk about it behind her back. So,
Yeah.
What's it like for her in Texas?
It's a
Yeah.
conservative state. It not only is it not a legal state, it's a very conservative state. They do have a big hemp organization that she's a part of, and so she
Yeah,
is
so I was actually going to ask her about that. Are you familiar with that work she's doing with the hemp world? Is that something you're doing as well?
It's the Texas Hemp Coalition in particular, and she may even be involved in other organizations. I believe she's on the board of that one. And goes to the Capitol to talk to legislators about legalizing and is a part of that effort. We are sponsoring the Texas Hemp Summit, which is their annual event that they put on. The Texas Hemp Coalition puts on every year. That's coming up in December, and we'll be there to support that. So she's very active in the state in efforts to legalize, but also just efforts to talk about it and to destigmatize it. As far as her access to it is certainly less so than mine. And I believe that she probably would and will. Her children are a little older than mine. But I do think they are aware of it. I think it's starting to become a conversation, at least with her oldest. And she may take a slightly more conservative approach than I might about usage in front of her children and whatnot, because they're now teens or almost teens. So it's going to be a different type of conversation for her with them, but I think they're already talking about it.
Yeah. It's my joke is, I had my cannabis awakening. I came home and told my teenager children that I had everything I knew about cannabis is wrong. They were psyched, and it went from there. But they already knew they were consumers and they were using it in different ways. It's just a different conversation. That's interesting. So she's in a very conservative state. So did she have issues when she talks about working in the cannabis industry in her world?
Well, it's funny. When we started the company in 2018, we started with 2 brands, and we still have 2 brands. But we did that because she was in a non-legal state, and she wanted to be able to network and to serve friends and acquaintances and businesses in her area. So we have a non-cannabis brand for that, just because it was still a little taboo
Mhm.
to talk about it. And there were people, maybe even more importantly, there were people who weren't comfortable hiring a company with cannabis in the name or canna in the name. So we had that other brand for that as sort of a catch-all for anyone who wasn't comfortable or, hadn't seen the light yet. But she would tell you now that she's probably markets Cannasite more than the other brand at this point. And I would say, I think we usually estimate like 90% of our business is through the Cannasite brand.
Wow.
And not through our other brand. And many, we've had many Texas businesses and individuals hire Cannasite explicitly for their project, whether that is hemp, CBD, the deltas, whether they're like CBD shops,
Yeah.
or just people who are starting to serve like ancillary type businesses who are starting to serve that market.
So we're getting new. Obviously, Ohio just came online. New York is huge. So are you seeing just sort of a general uptick in like people who are looking for help or trying to get into the business from different parts of the country? Or are you focused more in certain areas? How's that working with you?
We do tend to follow the legalization map and kind of try to introduce ourselves into the new markets as they, come online, if you will. We still have clients here in Washington, which Washington has been a legal state now for, I don't even know, was it 2012 when they legalized?
I think they're early.
Yeah, Colorado and Washington legalized the same day. I think it was 2012. So even in very mature markets, we still get businesses, but I would say less so. We do tend to be a go-to for new businesses that are ready to jump in. We're lucky and have learned so much about the industry that we can be a guide or a consultant in just getting your business up and running and your initial marketing activities. So we're able to, I think, offer some of that comfortability for new people who are just
jump in. So what are you seeing are you seeing a lot of ancillary kind of businesses? Are you seeing dispensaries coming on board? Out here in Massachusetts, all the dispensary websites look exactly alike. I don't know if it's a regulation, but I've seen the ancillary businesses are more creative.
Yeah, we get a very good mix of all of it.
Yeah.
We do have some dispensaries, but not as many as you think. Yeah. We work with a lot of delivery businesses. We're partners with a variety of cannabis menu providers, because dispensaries have a more rules to follow, and they can only sell within their state. And so selling online or having people purchase online is a different hurdle for them. And they usually need, because of the merchant processor, because they need someone to process those payments, they usually have to work with a cannabis menu provider who has a built-in merchant, which is great. We work with a lot of those. We're partners with Meadow, Dutchy, I Heart Jane, etc. So, but it is a little bit different beast. We get to be maybe a little bit more creative with some ancillary or businesses that aren't e-commerce. But that said, I would say again, we have a healthy mix of all different types of cannabis businesses, from plant touching to non.
And they're all up. If you look on their website, they have a great kind of cover of like all the different businesses they're working with. It's kind of inspiring just to see them all out there.
We have a page on our website of all of our published projects, our live websites. And so you can check that out and get an idea of the various types of businesses that we work with. And we always say we're growing our crop every week. So
and
new website every week.
And this will be after MJ BizCon, but you're going next week also. So I don't know, what are you I know you're sponsoring the Blunt Brunch, and I don't know what other events you're connected with, but what are you looking forward to? What are you hoping to achieve? Have you been before? Are you excited to go again? Yeah, MJ BizCon, it's huge and overwhelming me already.
Yes. We went, I think we went our first year or second year. We went in 18 or 19. We have yet to exhibit. We have definitely exhibited at a number of cannabis trade shows, but we haven't exhibited at MJ Biz. The first year we just walked around and Reagan had looked up websites and picked out a few that were not awesome. That
that's
could
funny.
use a little bit of help. And so we walked around and basically like, hey, we build websites and we think you can use some help, but it's, but in a kind way.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did the first time. And then obviously COVID happened. Then last year we had plans to go, and I actually finally got COVID the week before. So I could not go. Reagan had to go it alone. And
although I heard a lot of people got COVID at MJ BizCon last year. So
yeah, knock on wood. I did not want to get COVID again.
Yeah.
So Reagan went alone, but attended Blunt Brunch. And thought that was an amazing experience, which is again why we wanted to become involved with that and sponsor that event this year, and basically did marketing. And so that's kind of networking. That's basically our plan. There's lots of parties, like you said. So we're excited for those parties. We're excited to just network. We have some meetings set up just for connecting with partners or potential partners. Maybe more networking and strategic partnerships this year than like our first attempt, which was getting, rounding up some clients,
Oh yeah. The woman I went with my first year, she fell asleep because she smoked so much during the day. So it was, but we did rent a car. And we went to one of the dispensaries where you can consume. I'd never been to a consumption lounge before. And it was like, it was on the Native American reservation. I can't remember.
Okay.
She took like a bong hit. I was just, I was still pretty new in the world, and she was a long-time consumer, and she took her bong hit and was so excited and was telling me all about this. And I'm like, it was still kind of like making my head spin that you could still buy cannabis because it wasn't quite what it is in Massachusetts. Now it's normalized. All right.
I'm excited. I don't think, like you mentioned on the reservation, that makes sense. I was going to say, I have been following the news on cannabis consumption lounges in Vegas, and it seems like the last 2 years we've been talking about maybe they'll get it together and before we get there, and I don't think that they have. I don't think I've heard the latest, but Reagan and I did 1 year check out a couple dispensaries, and I'm hoping we'll be able to do that. My concern is obviously the Formula One preparations and all the construction that has happened in Vegas, the last couple months preparing for that event this past weekend.
Oh, really?
Has make it a little harder to traverse.
I don't know. I'll be looking you up because I'm just going to be hanging out with all my Canna lady friends because we'll get to finally see each other in person. We've just been sort of connecting, all these virtual places for years and years. So
let us know where you're going to be so we can come meet.
Well, we're going to be. I think it's gonna be fun. I haven't been there in a while. I think this is a way to empower us and make us feel connected again and go on and keep doing the work that we're all doing. So, let's see. We have a couple more minutes. So, are you doing any lobbying? Are you doing that kind of work? I know I talked to Reagan before that.
I personally haven't. Yeah, I personally haven't gotten that involved. We do here in Washington. We support and are a sponsor of the Cannabis Alliance, which does a lot of the lobbying, if not, the majority of the lobbying here in Washington to continuously improve, conditions for the growers, the producers, the cultivators, the people, especially the small businesses, the mom and pops who, need a chance to thrive in the industry and in the market and not be overwhelmed and put out of business by the big boys. I don't think we in Washington really allow for out-of-state operators. I think
why don't we just talk for the last couple minutes? Let's talk about what it looks like. My listeners might not know. What does it look like in the state of Washington? What kind of dispensaries do you have? It's been there for a while. Is it normalized? How's it working?
Yeah, well, it's very normalized. The dispensaries, I mean, we've got, you know, dispensaries that are kind of like a Walmart, or, you know, where you just got tons and tons. And then we've got some dispensaries that are more boutique and experience oriented. And it's just like another business on the street. I know I've been to numerous states where the dispensary experience is more clinical, or just very, you know, you've got to sit in a waiting room, you know, only one person can go back at a time. And it's very different here. I mean, we do have a couple places, I'm sure, that are regulating the amount of people that come in at any time, but it is definitely more of a boutique type experience, and a fun shopping experience.
And look, and again, this is all state. Everything in these products are all state specific. Do you think there's anything that's being made out in Washington, or anything that's coming out from there that's different than anywhere else in the country? Or do you see? I mean, they've been around longer, so they've ability to make more innovation. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a flower girl, so I don't tend to go much beyond, but yes, there are, I mean, we've always had edible and food products that go beyond the gummy.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, I've worked with a brand and numerous brands that are doing unique infused pre-rolls, different takes on that. There's new vapes coming out all the time, new vape technology that's coming out all the time.
Beverages, are beverages big out there? Those are like seem to be like on the edge out here. Yeah.
You know, I haven't checked in on them in a while, but Olala does a beverage line and they're all delicious. I know there are other brands, and you know, we don't really, and don't quote me, because I haven't looked into this in a while, but we don't really allow out-of-state operators. I do think that you can be an out-of-state investor in a brand, in a business, but we don't really have MSOs per se. I don't think we've even given out licenses in quite a while. I mean, again, we're a mature market,
right? Yeah,
so I feel like the licenses are taken, you know.
Yeah. And this is so state specific. So do you see I don't know, I mean, eventually this is going to be legal federally, obviously at some point it will be. So do you see, I keep hoping that each state, because we're doing this state by state, are setting up good models for other states to copy, but it seems like we're just copying the bad stuff from each state. So are there things from Washington that you think,
but are we going to use that information? I don't know.
Is there anything in Washington that, you know, you feel like is really hopeful? And I know I just talked to Ms. Kindness Ramirez last week, and she said the thing that actually gave her hope was that we're still talking about social equity. We haven't let it fall off the bandwagon totally. So do you see anything out there that's going on that you think?
I'm just happy that there are organizations like the Cannabis Alliance, like, you know, different lobbying groups that are paying attention and are fighting for, you know, rights for smaller businesses, for mom and pops, so that they're not just overwhelmed and pushed out of the market. I mean, I think that Washington has done a pretty good job in a lot of ways. One thing that is maybe challenging, I think, for Washington businesses is we are not vertically integrated. You cannot own a farm and own a dispensary.
So you are not. That's interesting. So this is like reverse. So medicinal came in Massachusetts. You had to be vertically integrated, which kept a lot of people out because who can do that? And then we had adult use come in. So you can any vertical integration in Washington?
I think you can own, you know, you can be a cultivator, you can be a producer, you can have both of those licenses, but you cannot have a dispensary, you know, retail license and also have a producer grower license. So there's pros and cons to that.
Right.
Obviously the con being that the small people can't just sell directly to the consumer. And they've got to compete for shelf space, for glass space. And that is, I think, challenging. But why we started Cannasite. If you're going to compete with these companies that do have a marketing budget, you've got to have a good website that's going to tell your story and give you authority and credibility. Just because, if you don't have a website, it's almost unheard of nowadays.
And you gotta
the story doesn't help you build any authority,
And the story is so important. And there's like everyone, it's your narrative that people believe in. So this is really empowering. All right. Actually, we're up on our time. So I just kept talking. I know. So Caron, if they want to connect with you and Reagan, or want to have a website, or just want to like reach out to you, what is the best way to connect with you?
Well, our website is where we would
tell there you go.
everyone to go. Cannasite.com. We're also on various social channels at Cannasite. You can also just send an email to hello@cannasite.com, and Reagan will reply right away.
And we missed you. Sorry we didn't have you today, but hopefully I'll see you in Vegas. And any last words you want to leave before we head off?
I would say if you don't have a website, get on it right now. I would also say launch your website, even if it's imperfect. That websites are meant to grow with you. And if you're waiting for everything to be perfect before you launch it, you just may never launch it. And so we encourage everyone, just get something up there, get online, and then work on it as you go.
That's Canna Mom advising or something. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Hope that went well. And so there we go. Another show for my guests. And of course, my Canna Bro, David Yaz, and my Canna Mom Show team. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the Canna Mom Show, where we are talking about caring for and giving voice to the emerging cannabis industry, one cannabis story at a time. Thank you for sharing the inspiring stories of the many women building this new industry, so together we can crush the stigma around cannabis and caregivers. I'm your host, Joyce Gerber. This is the Canna Mom Show, and we are a production of Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network.